Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
And Correspondent Week marches on, James, episode number 12. You're going to introduce our guest. This is one I've been looking forward to because it's a team that currently in my draft, I have no players, and I really feel like I should. Who do we have?
Well, the last time I did a draft, which was about 10 days ago, there was also Manchester United players, no Manchester United players for me. And I also know that there should be some. Hopefully in about the next 45 minutes or so, that's about to be clarified, but probably not because someone else will change my mind tomorrow, I suppose. That's the problem with this correspondent week. We'll all have 3 Brentford players at the end.
By the end.
Because Tom Med's on
Tom's
last. Let me introduce you to our Manchester United correspondent, Gary Robinson. How are you, Gary?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you, mate. As we just said off camera, there's probably not that many options to consider from an FPL perspective, but we feel like we could spend loads of time talking about probably 15 players in the squad. I want to, before we come on to the individuals though, Gary, I want to get your opinion first on your hopes of winning the league this season.
Well, if City get Kane and or Grealish, then it's game over, isn't it? It doesn't matter how anyone else strengthens. If City get one of them two, if they get both of them, there's absolutely not a hope in hell anyone else wins the league, is there? If they don't get either of them, which probably looks like it might happen as of today.
We're recording on the 3rd of August.
Yeah, so it looks like Grealish might have changed his mind, and I don't think Levy's going to change his mind, is he? So anyway, a long way to go. But if they don't get either of them, then we've got to go a lot closer than we did last year. We've just got to. Because last year, to have been top of the league in January and finish, I don't know what we ended. Was it 12, 13 behind? I can't remember in the end. You know, it was a long way short again. It was second, but it wasn't the title challenge of any real nature, was it? Considering you were top of the league in January. So, yeah, I think it depends on Kane and Grealish, doesn't it? If they go, it's game over, isn't it?
You strengthened in areas that you'd like to. I mean, centre-back, Lindelof, he was okay, but he's not a title-winning centre-back. So you strengthened there. And obviously Sancho's a player of immense quality as well.
Yeah.
Where you were kind of playing Dan James on the right or Martial on the right, or mixing it up, whoever was there or thereabouts, you know, he's going to take that spot as well. There could still be some outs, but I do think you've strengthened in the right places that you need to.
Oh, we've definitely strengthened, and I don't think there's really a defensive midfielder probably won't go amiss. But is it enough to get? We're already on paper last year the second best team in the country. Has that got us close enough to City unless they have an absolutely unbelievable drop off? And I just don't think it is. And if they get, like I say, I know I keep going on about it, but if they improve again, how can anyone get close to them? You know, it's a shame really, because if they don't improve, if they stay as they are, and maybe the Champions League becomes a bit of a focus. But it's whether you can stay close enough to them in a run-in, because the Champions League, the last few years, the Champions League, they've been able to focus on the Champions League because the league's been wrapped up, hasn't it? Apart from the year they didn't, but they were miles behind. So they've always been able to focus on the Champions League. So it's whether if you can get to April and be a point ahead of them or 2 points behind them, that because then you can really put that pressure on and see if you can get near them. But and I honestly thought last January we were on the verge of a real challenge, but as soon as we got top of the league, lost to Sheffield United, can't remember some of the other results. We had some real, not a bad run of results, but just a lot of draws and
the
silly
Sheffield
defeats.
United was a shocker. I mean, it was the biggest upset of the whole season, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then from then on, it just became we were pretty much guaranteed top 4 by, I don't know, realistically February, March time, and it just became coasting in for the end of the season.
You think about it, Gary. 12 points drift. You finished your City.
Yeah,
you lost your first 3 home games last season to Crystal Palace, Tottenham, and Arsenal, and lost at home to Sheffield United. Throw in the dropping of the injury time points at home to Everton. There's 14 points for you.
Yeah, precisely. You know,
Don't take much.
No,
The consistency is quite good. Otherwise.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, because we were coasting towards the end of the season. You know, we played a reserve team against Leicester, and towards the end, you know, that might have been another match that if we'd have tried, we lost to Liverpool towards the end, but we could have lost that game anyway. But and I know every team could think, well, there's that game, but it's can we that if we're going to win the league, these are the points, these are the games you got to focus on and say. And it's our home, like you say, it's our home record, our away record, unbeaten since, I don't know, must be
18 months or so.
Year and a half or something, yeah.
Phenomenal.
But home's absolutely, you know, like you say, lost the first 3, lost to Sheffield United, draws, you know, it's the home form that's not good enough at the minute.
But then
I saw it for the
75,000 to go back in the ground this year, mate. So that'll make a difference.
Yeah,
sorry,
definitely.
Suj.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw it for the first time in a long time with West Ham when we were up near the top of the table. And I found it relentless, like week in, week out, to have to keep picking up results just to stay up there was exhausting from a fan's point of view as well. I'm used to being in and around the bottom half of the table, where if you lose a couple of games, win a couple of games, you're still there or thereabouts. But when you're up near the top, you lose one game and you're dropping, and you lose 2 in a row, and suddenly you're so far out of it. It's very hard at that level at the top. You've got to be relentlessly good. So,
that's what happened to us last season. We got ourselves pole position. Like I say, we were top of the league. City, I think City had games in hand, but we were more points clear than they had games in hand. And like you said, before you know it, you draw 3-3 with Everton in the last minute. You lose to Sheffield United. There was another result in there. I can't remember what it was now. And especially last season, when it was Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday most of the season, you have one bad week, and before you know it, you've gone from 2 clear to 5 behind or whatever. And you know, if you do that to teams like City and Liverpool, if they get back to their standard, it's you never and Chelsea, you never ever getting it back, and that's why you end up just. Yeah.
Were you happy in the end that Ollie got a new contract?
No.
Oh, that was quite definitive,
emphatic. Mate. I didn't expect that response, to be honest with you.
No,
elaborate.
It's the same as I said last summer, and it's the same I said the summer before. He is a club legend, and he always will be. But he's operating at the peak. That he's at the very ceiling of his abilities. I just can't see how a manager of his track record and style will win a Premier League in the current era. It's just not possible as far as I'm concerned.
You'd rule yourself out of winning the title, basically, then?
I would.
It's a big call, mate. As I've said a few times, I'm not too dissimilar of thinking to you, but there were games last year that made me think, do you know what? Maybe there's more there tactically within him than what I thought. And a lot of that might be coming from some of the coaching staff in the background as well. But the performances at the Etihad the last few seasons, it's got to make you think, do you know what? Tactically in the big games, there's something there.
No, but I think you're right. That tactically in the big games, when he can be cautious and play on the counter attack and let teams come onto him, I think he has got something about him. But what he is consistently proven for 2.5 years is when we have to take the game to someone, you know, and maybe we might come on to this a slight tweak in the tactics. He's obsessed, or he has been obsessed with playing Fred and McTominay, Fred and Matic, and he hasn't proven himself yet that he can go for matches, and the matches that we need to win, that we should win, the Sheffield United's at home, you know, the bottom half teams. We don't win. Very rare we win them games easily. We've got a lot of late goals and a lot of spirit and coming back from behind, which is all great. But sometimes in a relentless calendar, 60 matches, you need to rock up to those games, be 3-0 up by half time, resting players and moving on. And we've never got in that routine, and that is why I don't think we can bridge the gap, because I don't think he'll risk things enough.
How many times did you come back from losing positions last season?
Yeah, no, I know, and that speaks such well of the spirit and the togetherness and the stamina late on and all things like that. Of course it does, but it's not a recipe for success long term, is it? And it does speak to an inability to rock up at places or at home and just say, look, we're miles better than you, and we're going to be 2-0 up within 24 minutes, and it's game over. And I think it's just that little thing, and it's not much because we've been second, we've been third, we're getting to cup finals, but it's just that little tip. And I don't know if he's got it within him. The reports pre-season are that he's determined to go to only one City midfielder. But as it stands, none of the players we've got are good enough to play in that City role by themselves. So I don't know.
So I take it the idea is to drop Pogba into one of the two, if he stays.
you would hope so. Yeah, I mean, if we've got Pogba in a two, a more advanced two, we've got one of the best midfielders in the country, haven't we? But who do you play in that role behind them? Because
hands off.
Well, yeah, precisely.
Yes, Mr. Sissoko is not for sale.
Chelsea have always been touted, but I think that the United move would be incredible for you guys if you were to get your checkbooks out, because it would allow you to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's a story for hopefully never.
Well, I think the money quoted at the minute seems, I don't think they'd be able to pay for Sancho, Varane, and then go 80-100 million for Rice in one window, would they?
Got a good deal on Varane though. It appears like it though.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be 35-ish with add-ons.
But his wages are big, aren't they? I think his wages are hefty.
I think they're on about 12. Is it 12 million a year? I've seen. I don't know how true that is.
The wages thing is never really going to be a problem for your club, mate.
No, it's not.
Done commercially and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. But it adds 12 million. That's nearly as much as you two are on, isn't it? So it all adds up, doesn't it?
I mean, your second choice goalkeeper's on about 500 grand a week.
Well, there you are. There's another absolute. I think we had this conversation this time last year about what a farce it was that we've got both of them, and we seem to be no further on now. And
that's a segue into talking about your squad. He is second choice, but he's not. He's start of the season. He may actually be first choice, and that kind of sort of means that maybe you avoid the Manchester United goalkeepers, even though compared to the prices of some of the other bigger keepers, they're reasonably cheap. Henderson's what we consider to be first choice, yet he might be out at the start of the season because of these COVID symptoms. So if you start with De Gea, it's a transfer waiting to happen. And if you start with Henderson, you've got no playing goalkeeper. So just avoid.
Yeah, just avoid, because even if it comes out that Henderson's fit for game week 1, he's not. I know he might be first choice now. He's not nailed that down. You might get to Newcastle at home after internationals, and these
long COVID symptoms are a bastard. I've seen a lot of people suffer with them. I would avoid anyone that I've seen in that space or who gets COVID, because it's horrible.
Yeah, I think Lewis Hamilton was still on he said he had it last December, didn't he? And he's still suffering. So, I mean, I think you avoid both. And it's a shame, really, because 5 million's probably, wouldn't mind paying that, would you? But yeah, I think you have to avoid it now, unfortunately.
Yeah, Dean Henderson's got to do a bit more than put his foot on a pedal, wasn't he, in fairness?
Yeah.
I'd probably just got to the point, Gary. I'm only joking. I know there's some Lewis Hamilton, proper fanboys out there. I'm only joking. I just got to the point, Gary, where I think I decided I was going to go with Henderson.
Oh,
and
really?
then the news broke. Yeah, honestly. I was like, no way, can't be. So I'm still sitting there not really sure what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I think we play Everton this weekend, but I mean, if he doesn't play that,
he's not going to.
You can't see him starting the first league game. So yeah, it's going to have to be an avoid, isn't it?
Yeah, if you had to buy one of them right now, I think the only solution I could say is for people who think they're going to wild card in game week 4, do you want to go with David De Gea? But then if you're just going with just the 3 games, do you want to go with the Manchester United goalkeeper anyway when there's a few other clubs who've got a better set of 3 fixtures?
Yeah,
difficult one.
Yeah, just there's a couple of 4.5s that look decent to me, and if you really want to spend money on your keepers, then go and get Ederson or Mendy or Alisson's got a good. I mean, you probably don't want to waste Liverpool spot on Alisson, but if you're gonna do it, Ederson at City, the only player who you'd say is nailed. Just what's Ederson 6? So
6.
yeah, I think if you're going to do it, just either go for it or just stick at the budget options again.
At the time of recording,
Yeah.
Mo Salah is 48.6% owned.
Okay.
Luke Shaw is 47.8% owned. Can you believe that?
No, I can't. I think
is it obvious that, because one of the discussions like we had with Tom Candle from Who Got the Assist on Content Creator Week was a case of like you might have to go with him with that ownership. It's massive.
Well, I mean, yeah, I wonder if there'll be 10 days yet of people putting more teams in, but I think maybe it's because it's the Euros and people know who he is and all the rest of it, and quite famous at the minute and all that, and people are defaulted to him because, you know, he wasn't even Man United's highest scoring fullback last season. So I don't understand why he's generated all this. You know, Wan-Bissaka got more attacking returns than him, 20 more points than him, about 4 more clean sheets than him, or 5 more, I can't remember. You know, and I mean, that was Shaw's greatest ever season, both in fantasy and in actual real life. He was absolutely unbelievable, and he was unbelievable in the Euros. And you know, massive credit to him for turning his career around and all the rest of it. But I just, you know,
if I play devil's advocate to the Wan-Bissaka comparison, he did play 400 more minutes than Luke Shaw. But then on the flip side, I was looking at the BPS between the two. Shaw picked up 22 bonus points last year, which is a lot, which kind of makes you feel like the games that he contributed in, it would have been double returns, like clean sheet and an assist, which ends up whacking you up on the bonus points as well.
Yeah.
The BPS is hard to predict and be sustainable. So if you discounted the difference in BPS as well, again, it makes Wan-Bissaka a little bit more.
Well, before you go on,
attractive.
Gary, I'll play devil's advocate on my side as well. Like you've got Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Maguire, all 5.5.
Yeah.
Varane's obviously not going to be cheaper. He's either going to be the same. He's not going to play game week 1, or he's going to be 6, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a possibility as the new signing might be 6, but he should be 5.5. Anyway, we're not buying him. Points per match last season: Maguire 3.6, Shaw 3.9, Wan-Bissaka 4.2.
Yeah, it's, you know, and Shaw played about, I had a look, I think he played about 80% of the minutes available. So it's not like he's had a good half of the season and wasn't playing. He was pretty much a regular most of the season and still ended up 400 minutes short of Wan-Bissaka, 20 odd points short of him. I think him and Maguire might have got, did they get the same points, Shaw and Maguire? It was very close.
Exactly the same. The same.
So it just makes you wonder whether it's a Euros bounce when how amazing he was, and people have defaulted to him.
And probably being arguably your player of the season, you're the biggest supported club, right? There's the influence of that as well. Scoring in a final, being really good.
Yeah, I think all of that's come to it.
There's a number of combinations, but I never felt like, even though he's a really good price at 5.5, there are alternatives. We've spoken on previous pods like Luca Dean, Aaron Cresswell, same price. Wan-Bissaka at the same football club. There are alternatives that, for me, I can't believe that the ownership is that high.
And I think he's a decent price, but maybe it's just the way I've done my team. But with mine, I think 5.5's a bit of a, it's neither out nor something. I think you want them 6.5, 7ers, or you want the 4.5. So I think if you end up with the 5.5, you know, can you then get Trent and Robertson? I don't know if people still want the Liverpool double up. You know, I think it. Yeah, well, I've got Trent and Robertson and no United defence at the minute, and I just find it a really awkward price, that 5.5 at the minute, especially when you don't know what's, maybe 6 weeks into the season, you know what's happening. It becomes obvious, but at the minute, I just find it a bit awkward. I think I'll either go to the 7s or to the 4.5. So I don't think
I'm with you. I've got both Trent and Robbo. I did have, as much as we started the pod and I said I had no United, I did have Luke Shaw as a kind of placeholder, and I've moved sideways at 5.5 to Luca Dean, who I'm comfortable starting with because of Everton's run at the start of the season. Benitez being so defensive, and I think he's okay at 5.5.
Yeah.
The other thing with Shaw is, I mean, do we know in terms of his ribs and fitness and that kind of thing? Are we even 100% sure game week 1 he'll play?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think he's back in training. He went to Scotland yesterday. I think he's gone. I mean, his ribs. He did that in the Germany game. He managed to play another 3 matches after that. He will have had what will he have had off by then? A month off by then. So I think so. And given Tellez is injured and Brandon Williams looks like he's gone.
Yeah, he must be all right. Yeah, that's what I've read into it too.
If Shaw was any kind of a doubt, then you would assume that Williams would not be able to go because we haven't got none of our centre backs can play left back, or we haven't got a natural. We haven't even got a fill-in option really at left back. So I assume
Dallow's still with the club. He is, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we sold him, did we?
I guess that would be the last resort. Switch him to the left, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, they obviously don't fancy him. He's not played for a long time, has he? So I think Shaw will be fit for week 1.
If you had to buy Shaw, Maguire, or Wan-Bissaka, one of them, where would you go?
I think it's all right to say none as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't bought any of them but if I had to buy one of them, I think you probably would have to go for Shaw, wouldn't you? And just gamble that, not gamble, but just assume that this is a complete renaissance and that he's going to improve again next season. More minutes, more attacking returns and things like that. I think he only scored 1 goal last season, 5 assists. So he's got it in his locker to improve on that. So I think, Maguire always threatens to be a set piece asset, but he never turns into any goals really.
Except for England.
Yeah, I was going to say. He didn't
go on, Slabhead.
Yeah, in a knockout game, he's all right. But
he drinks the vodka, he drinks the Jaeger.
I think he would go Shaw of the 3, but as I say, I'm not going to go for any of them early on.
The one thing that's I think is really important to say at this point that's concerning me a little bit about Aaron Wan-Bissaka is these rumours that keep persisting about Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
Where the thinking is there to do a little bit of an England has been suggested, is what I've heard and read. The idea being that potentially Wan-Bissaka right-sided centre-back, Trippier right wing-back for perhaps more high-profile games and to play a back 5, or even as a different solution in certain games where you're failing to break down certain teams. Although I feel like having Shaw and Trippier, as England did, it's more of a defensive setup, I think.
Yeah.
So, but that would be a little concerning, because then if it doesn't manifest that you're going to end up playing that system and you just stay with a back 4, Trippier's not just going to sit on the bench for 38 games, right? He's going to get some minutes, isn't he? And that would be a concern for Wan-Bissaka if he signs.
Yeah, and given how much he's played left back recently, it might even put you offshore a bit as well if we end up getting Trippier, because they might switch it around that way and have him covering both full-back positions. And
I tell you what, that's a really valid point when you think of Tellez's injury, which is not long-term, and the fact that Brandon Williams might be going out on loan and might even be looking at it and going, well, we've got a loan secured for Williams if we have to deal with it for a couple of weeks because we know Trippier's coming in. Yeah, it could be a fair point, that, mate.
Yeah, so I think early on because the other thing is, even aside from that, we don't actually know how good we're going to be defensively. We've just discussed the keeper situation, which is a bit of a mess. Varane, obviously, top player, but he might take a few weeks to settle in. If we try and play a bit more of an expansive game, last season when you've got a United defender, you're thinking, I've got Fred and McTominay protecting, keeping things tight. If we try and open up a bit more, and try and play one in front, it might take a few weeks to bed in. It might work straight away. Equally, Bielsa might rip us to bits with Fred in the holding role, and before you know it, you're thinking, I've got Luke Shaw at 5.5, and we've just lost. And we've had another. The other thing is we had a slow start last season, pretty slow start the year before. I think we lost our first home game. And we lost our second home game the year before, didn't we, to Palace, I think. We've not been good starters the last few years. I think it's an easy avoid for now. I really do.
Before we go on to Bruno, I want to get your opinion on the fixtures.
Yeah.
Because every time I look at them, I change my mind a little bit, and I'll explain why. I think we look at the first four: Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, isolation. That sounds decent.
Yeah.
When I look at my tick of up to game week 7, and the reason game week 7 is because that's the second international break, I have you second best, only behind Watford. Yet when I look at those fixtures, add West Ham, Villa, and Everton to that, there is only one game there that shouts to me captain.
Yeah.
And that's the Newcastle game in game week 4. We might, by the time we get to game week 3, think possibly Wolves. Southampton's a very good fixture, but Liverpool and City have better alternatives. So you've got decent 7 fixtures. There's only one that stands out as massive captaincy. And then following game week 7, you've got Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, Manchester City, Watford, Chelsea, Arsenal. So actually, if I look from after game week 4 and you throw West Ham, Villa, Everton in front of that, that's a horrendous spell. From game week 5 all the way up to game week 12. Yeah. And that's where I can't make my mind up. And I guess it depends. Are you of the short-term thinking or are you of the long-term thinking? Because the one thing, before I get your opinion on Bruno, it's definitely going to happen is if people do go with Bruno and he flops against Newcastle, he's getting fired out.
Yeah.
All over the place to wherever the money is elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've just highlighted why I haven't got Bruno, because I know for a fact I wouldn't be comfortable captaining him for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So I've just not bothered. I've spent, as it stands now, obviously there's 10 days to go. I might change my mind. I've got Greenwood in for 7.5 because it's a decent price. I personally know that I wouldn't captain Bruno in week 1. I don't think he's the best. Obviously, I think Salah or a Chelsea player. Week 2, Southampton away is not bad, but
Liverpool got Burnley and City got Norwich.
Burnley, City, Norwich. Yeah, so you're not going to captain Bruno there. Week 3, Wolves away, not bad again, but I think you might be looking at Spurs at home that weekend or City. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But anyway, so week 4, you said Newcastle at home, definitely probably might be the best captain option. Yeah, but I think even then you've got. I don't think Salah's game's that bad, is it? I don't think
Spurs at Palace. Arsenal have got Norwich at home. Everton have got Burnley at home. If you're sitting there with Calvert Lewin's in form or something.
So I think if you get to there, if you haven't got him, you're probably going to think, well, all right, it's 1 week, and then, like you said, then that run starts. You think, well, am I that bothered captaining Salah away at Leeds or Son or Kane or whoever away at Palace? You're probably not, and if you've got Bruno, you'd be thinking, oh, great, I can, this is my weekend here. But you might have missed out those 3 weekends before, and you won't be captaining him. But after that, you might not captain him again till what's that, November? To me, 12 million's too much money for someone who I know that I will not captain for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I've just abandoned it. I've just written it off in my mind. With a slight caveat that in the Sky game, for people who play it, because of the way the fixtures fall, I think he's a bit more of an option in that, because we've got quite a few Sunday games and you get the shot tiers and things like that. So
he's in his Sky, by the way.
Yeah, he's in my He's in my Sky, and I think I might be captaining him the 2 of the first 3. I can't remember.
Exactly the same as that.
But obviously that's a completely different scenario. But in FPL, I don't think. If you want to captain him, then fine. But the flip of that is, if you're going to captain Bruno, are you going Salah-less? And would you rather go Salah-less for the first 6, 7, or Fernandes-less?
Well, his ownership, Fernandes still at 40%, but I feel like in the last few weeks it's fallen away a little bit.
Slowly,
I'm coming to the mindset that I haven't. But the other thing with you guys is the alternative. So take Liverpool, for example. There's no differential between Salah and Mane. 500,000 makes it a no-brainer choice. Whereas for you, there is a drop-off in price to Rashford's injured, but Sancho, Greenwood that you've mentioned, even Pogba, if he's one of 2 more attacking.
Yeah.
And there's a big saving to be had there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing, in that the alternatives are really good at cheaper prices. You mentioned Greenwood is the one you've gone with. Talk me through that, because I love that boy, because I like players that do things that I think, oof. And when he hits a football every single time, even though I've seen him do it a number of times now, every time he hits a football, I think, oof, he's hit it.
Every time he shoots, I think of Robin van Persie, which is not something that makes me feel nice, but I'm glad it's someone not in an Arsenal shirt doing it.
But minutes is the question around Greenwood.
Yeah, I mean, I think long term that is an issue, but I think early on in the season, obviously we know Rashford's out till October. Cavani probably be first choice centre forward, but he was at Copa America. I think Uruguay got to the quarters, so he went pretty deep in that. Obviously he's 30, whatever he is, 35. Martial, terrible season last season, but obviously had a rest over the summer. And then Sancho, not played a lot through the summer, but still went deep in the tournament. Obviously missed the penalty. Now you don't know how that's impacted him, and I don't even know when he's not even played in a friendly for us yet. So you've got to assume for the first 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe, until that first international break, that Greenwood, given he can play anywhere across that front three, you've got to assume Greenwood will be in the team somewhere. So that's what. And at 7.5, if he is dropped in this first match or the second match or whatever, you probably don't feel too bad about it, as long as you've got a bench, and you can move off to a Grealish or a Foden, or people around that level in there. If you spend 9.5 on Sancho, and Solskjaer says, he'd be on the bench for a couple of weeks, you think, I could have had Son or Mahrez, or it's just that mental thing of I'm not bothered if Greenwood's benched.
In Greenwood's case, let's say, I think you're right. I think he definitely probably starts against Leeds. Beyond that, becomes a little bit more doubtful. I'll come on to Sancho in a second. But I think in Greenwood's case, the one good thing about him is if he doesn't start, he's going to get you half hour, 25 minutes at the end. And he's shown in games like at Tottenham, for example, when he come on and got a goal and assist last season, that he can come on and get returns late in games as well. He does have that feel about him that even in that short period, he can come on and do something. And even if you think like Southampton and Wolves are away, how many goals you scored second half last year coming from behind, we've already talked about. Sancho, honestly, I haven't considered having in my team for more than about a minute since he was first rumoured to going to you, because I just don't see him playing game week 1. I don't see it.
Yeah, well, I when they announced the price at 9.5, I put him in just for the sake of just see what it looked like, really. But the more I wasn't. This was when I wasn't, because obviously I think you've discussed. I think they released the game too early, and couldn't be bothered looking at it. But as I've actually started looking at it, and I thought, it's 9.5, like you said, I don't think he'll play week 1. And even if I knew for a fact he would, I'm just, and I don't dispute, he's obviously a terrific talent and all the rest of it, but players coming from Germany, the last, Werner, Havertz, even going back for United players, Mkhitaryan, Kagawa, both from Dortmund as well. It's never, and I know it's not
even Berbatov at Tottenham, going back to the late noughties, took 3 months really before we saw anything of him.
It seems, for whatever reason, it seems to be a difficult transition for attacking players. That, and I know it's a small sample and it's not relevant necessarily, but it just puts me off. It was the same with Werner last season, wasn't it? Oh, he had 28 goals and 15 assists, and he didn't. He looks a good player in terms of for the team, but he doesn't look a fantasy asset at the minute, does he, Werner? Until you can see the XG turning itself into goals. And I just, at 9.5 million with Greenwood available, or just go and get Bruno, I just think just avoid it. And when it happens, it's sat there. And if you have to pay 9.7 for him, well, what's 9.7? But you'd rather pay 9.7 for him than end up by week 4 thinking, he's at 9.2. Everyone's gone off him already. So yeah, I'm avoiding him for week 1. For the first few.
No doubt, however, and people who watch Bundesliga more than probably the three of us, are mental mad for him. I get that. We've all seen him play. We all know how good he is, and we all know that in theory he could start game week 1 and he could tear it up straight away. He's got the capability. He's got the ability. He's a perfect signing for you. The bigger picture off FPL for a moment absolutely fixes that right-hand side problem. In my opinion, he can play on the left as well. But I think with the personnel of the squad players, you've got Rashford, Martial, etc. Even Daniel James is better on the left. I think we can expect to see Sancho on the right predominantly. And I think he will be an absolutely super signing for you. But to start with him in game week 1, shaking my head.
No. I think, and if you are really wanting him, I think the perfect thing might be to just ride them first 3 weeks out, and then if you like what you've seen, pile into him for week 4, and he's a captaincy option then. And if
I like that.
And if you think, oh no one's really fancying him, just give it a couple of weeks until you know that he's definitely getting himself in and around the team, because it won't take long for them to get him in the 11, will it? And then just Newcastle at home after the international break and captain him, and really go for it, because I think otherwise you end up with another Werner on your hands, where because I started with Werner last season, and you just can't bring yourself to sell him then, because you think, oh, this will be the week, and before you know it, it's week 6, and it's that 9.5's turned into 9.1, and you're thinking should have just had Son or Mahrez or Greenwood or whoever. So for me, it's an obvious wait and see, and especially like you say, I don't think he'll start week 1, but we'll have to see. There's another 10, 11 days yet, isn't there? But we've only got one friendly between now and then, I think. So he's going to get himself fit. Yeah.
Do you think this 4-1-4-1 is where you're transitioning to? Because if it is, and you've got 2 in behind a striker, then Fernandes is going to be one of them. The other one you'd think would be Pogba. If Pogba's not there, then who kind of puts their hands up? Does Lingard put his hand up? And if Pogba or Lingard at 7 and 7.5 are number 8s attacking midfielders in the middle, both would be interesting options, wouldn't they?
Well, I think they would be. Yeah, I think you'd have to see it. Pogba really would be an interesting one there. I mean, if you think to when he had that mad spell two seasons ago, obviously
Sancho took over.
Yeah, the downside of that is he was on the penalties then, and we had a good run of penalties that season as well. So
I thought you were going to say he's still doing the run up for his penalties.
yeah.
Twinkle toes.
So I don't, so you're probably taking, I don't know how many got. I think he got 13 that season. I would say half of them were penalties. So yeah, how much? I don't even know how much Pogba is.
7.5.
I think there's probably better options at that value, isn't
there?
Well,
it's the same price as Greenwood, so
yeah. But even if you went to other teams, and Grealish is 8, isn't he? And Foden's around that value.
I think there's so many underneath the Rafinha price.
It's down to your formation, Gary. It really is like which Pogba are you getting? One of a deeper 2, or is he up top? And the same with Lingard as well.
Yeah.
Like, this 4-1-4-1 that's rumoured interests me, because if you do play like that, the impact it has on one of those 2 or whoever else you put into that mix is interesting.
It'd be interesting to see what the situation with Lingard is, because it seems like he wants to fight for his place, but I don't see an obvious spot for him in that, even as a squad player. I don't quite understand whether it's just a load of rhetoric to try and get the value up on him. I don't quite understand why they've not just said, thanks for everything, Jesse, go and play. Why he's rebuilt his career at West Ham. I don't understand why he doesn't want to go back, or someone else might fancy him. I don't quite understand.
I think he wants to, in fairness to him, he wants to play for Manchester United, ideally.
So do I, James.
I get that. I actually think there's a strong possibility he'll start game week 1, Jesse Lingard. I think that, particularly with his high energy, his defensive work, who the opposition is in Leeds, actually, Jesse Lingard, I'm sure he was brilliant for you, Suj, when West Ham played him.
Yeah,
it was an evening game, wasn't it? A Friday or a Monday night, and he was brilliant. The amount of he's one of the best defensive 10s around. Like I know people focus what he is on the ball, running with it, etc. But he's so clued up as defensive 10.
He's got that sort of Park Ji-sung mentality about him playing in that high role.
I do find his 4.5% ownership absolutely laughable at this minute in time.
Yeah.
I know why it is, because you just look at the people looking casually are going to look at Lingard. 6.6 points per game is the same as Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, precisely.
For 5 million cheaper. So I know that's why it's so high.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he might. I think he's played every pre-season match as far as I'm aware. So, given the injuries and the late international returns, yeah. But I mean, you're not going to. If you start with him, you might be selling him by week 2. It just seems
that's the case with Greenwood as well, though, mate.
I know, but Greenwood could go
yeah,
big.
I get that.
Lingard has had 2 purple spells in his career of about 10 weeks, 5 years apart. So there's no sustained returns from him, I don't think, even if he does play every week for us.
Are the club trying to sell Martial?
I think if there was an offer, I think they would consider it. They don't seem to be actively hawking him about. I've not really seen him linked anywhere. But the thing is, we as an actual centre forward, we're still a bit short. I know Greenwood and Rashford can play in there, but neither of them have done it on a regular basis. So, given Cavani's age, I would be surprised if we sold him, unless it was part of a another deal or something like that. I don't think we'll sell him.
I think it makes just, even if he's not first choice, it makes sense to keep him in the squad.
Yeah,
to give yourself the bodies, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You'd have to replace him.
And
before you sold him.
Yeah, and it's only 2 years ago that he was 25 goals and whatever it was, best part of 25 goals, and you really thought he'd turned the corner. So, I think he's about 25 now, though. So it's getting to the point where it needs to translate. But I don't think they'll try and sell him this summer now.
I'm not sure, Gary, if I'm any closer to having a Manchester United player in my team or not. I might be further away than I was 40 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, I'm on Greenwood, and that's it. And the only thing that'll change my mind is if I can't.
I might go Matic at 4.5.
If it comes out that Salah's injured or whatever, you might think that. Well, I'll just captain Bruno blindly for a few weeks, but I'll be captaining Salah for the first 2 weeks, and then then I might move to a City or a Spurs playing in week 3. I'm not. So yeah, I think if you're not going to captain Bruno, I think you can find a Greenwood.
I genuinely think
defensive options are fine, obviously, but I don't think they're musts either.
I genuinely think, looking at the fixtures, and I'm not even talking about this being close, Bruno is only the best captaincy option in one of the first 11 game weeks.
Yeah,
I can't pay 12 million for that from the start. I don't think.
'Cause
No one's saying he's a bad player or he's not going to
No.
go off or he's not going to do damage. Of course he is. But I can't justify that, I don't think.
I think, obviously, I know a lot of people don't like it, but if you think in terms of effective ownership and all that, if you have him and don't captain him, if he goes off, you're still going to be losing ground on people anyway. So you may as well just completely bite the bullet on it. Yeah, just completely bite the bullet and go and get a Mahrez and a Son, or a Mahrez and all the other little, go and get Trent and Robbo and all the other little things that it allows you to do by not having him and Salah, or I think if you're not going to captain, just don't buy him. Just come to terms with it and don't buy him.
Game week 4 is the only danger. The only thing we had a discussion on the podcast we did on our Patreon on Tuesday, Suj, about captaincy, and one idea I did suggest was the idea of going Salah first 2, Bruno for 3 and 4, back to Salah 5. But you've got to set your squad up in a really good place, I think, to be able to do that. But that's one way to navigate the potential game week 3, game week 4 option, because I think by the time we hit game week 3, Bruno at Wolves might look better than Son versus Watford, or a Man City player versus Arsenal, for example. So I think 3 is debatable, but 4 is the only one that's obvious.
Yeah, and does that mean you've got to be selling Salah? I mean,
but then if you hop on and hop off, you're losing Salah for Chelsea and Leeds.
Yeah,
and you're booking in 2 transfers, one to get it done and obviously one to get it back. You got to pray over that 3-week period of the transfers that you don't have any more issues. You got an international break in the middle of that. It's not ideal. I think I'm
it's-
just going to
it's-
suffer it and go without.
Yeah, well, I mean, my plan at the minute, like you say, a lot can happen is to try and roll in week one, into week two, sorry, and then for week three to have 2 frees, and then that's when you can start changing, maybe Mahrez to a Son, or like you say, see what's happening, or Sterling at home to Arsenal by then might look good, or De Bruyne, but I just think if you're not going to captain Bruno, just live with it and just don't have him. And so who's Salah got in week 5? Is it Palace at home or
Palace at home, and he's got Brentford away in 6.
Yeah, so then you're thinking, well, what's and like you
And
said,
then-
it's two of your first 4 transfers. You're swapping Salah and Bruno.
You've got United you've got Everton at home in game week 7 when City and Liverpool play each other.
Yeah.
But that's the start of Chelsea's big swing. Chelsea start there, Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be people who are absolutely mad on Bruno, and just and that's fine. But they're going to have what we're talking about with Salah. They're going to be owning Salah or not owning Salah, and to not captain him. And 4 of them fixtures you've just said there, so Salah's first 6 is Norwich, Burnley, Brentford, and Palace. You say, and the other two. I mean, Leeds away. I mean,
you can still go.
It can be tight. Did he score there last season? I can't remember. And what's the other one? Chelsea at home. Is it week 3?
Week 3, yeah.
Well, I mean, Salah at Anfield. You're not. It's not the end of the world, is it? Even if it's Man City, it's So for me, I won't be bothering with Bruno. I'll just bite the bullet on it. And
in game week 15, when I wildcard, stop laughing, Suj. Then I'm buying Bruno. Then I'm buying Jadon Sancho. Then I'm buying Luke Shaw.
Yeah.
Because you've got, I think, the best period of any team across the whole season. I see 7 greens in a row, and I see 9 greens in 11. Palace, Norwich, Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, Burnley, Wolves. Burnley, Southampton, 24-25. The 2 games that I've missed, the not green, Villa and West Ham.
Yeah.
It is an astonishing run of fixtures.
Yeah. And I think the hope is that we get ourselves into a good position again, and that's when you've got to start rattling through them teams.
If you're in a good position in the league, by the time you hit kind of Arsenal at home 14, Palace at home in 15, genuinely, at some point to win a title these days, I think you've got to put that kind of 6-7 winning game run together like City did over the winter period. That's your spell, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. What time of the year is? When's game week 14 start?
Well, what's brilliant about that as well is the Palace game 15. I think is the weekend before the last Champions League game, and the final game of that run, which is Southampton game week 25. Champions League restarts the midweek after.
Yeah, so if hopefully we get a
couple interruptions.
squad
rotation.
If we get an easier Champions League group, we might already be through by week 6 anyway. So Champions League game week 6. I mean, so it could be massive that, but that's if you can hold your wild card that long.
By the way, listeners, don't quote me on holding my wild card that long. Last year I knew I was adamant. I'm not definitely adamant about that this week. But for those looking to wild card late, and bearing in mind Chelsea will be coming off a good run, and we'll have a couple of blanks because the Club World Cup could be a good little time to switch actually.
Yeah.
Cheers, Gary. Really enjoyed that. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm pretty sure it is Bruno.
Yeah, I've not even done a draft with him in my team, so I don't even know what it would look like with him in. So
and it's definitely Sancho for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Gary, 2 questions. One's a 1-word answer. Where do you think you finish next season, mate?
4th.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, I could see that. And where can the listeners find you on Twitter and so?
Hiding.
Yeah. At is my cat playing.
Is my cat playing for all your kind of Manchester United stuff as well. Thank you so much. James, where are we going next?
I really enjoyed that. That was great. We are going next south. And I'm really looking forward to this one as well, because half the time I spend talking to McTavish, we really do go around in circles talking about Wilfried Zaha. We could talk about some other players who might be interested, because Crystal Palace have done some very good business this summer. We'll be catching up with Migtavius, our Crystal Palace correspondent.
Fantastic. Listeners, wherever you're listening to the podcast, make sure you are subscribed so you get notified as soon as the podcast go live. Hit the notification bell or whatever else you need to do. Other than that, stay safe. Chat for now.
Thanks, Gary. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.